Germany is one of those countries that's known for having really good working conditions. High job security, paid sick leave, and mandatory paid time off that's at least 20 days a year, but let me tell you, most Germans won't do it under 30. And the US is known for almost the opposite of that. Little to no job security, at-will employment, and no federally required paid sick leave or paid vacation days.
I love my job. I love my job. I love my job.
As a German who's worked both in Germany and the US, I've been thinking a lot about those differences. I specifically wanted to focus on how these different working conditions also shape a very different work culture on a daily basis. So in this video, I want to talk about how it actually feels to work in Germany versus in the US as someone who has worked in both countries. And now without further ado, let's get into the video. Hi there, my name is Indra. I'm originally from Germany, and about 2 years ago, I moved to the US where I now live with my American husband, Chandler. Let's actually recap some of the fundamental differences between working conditions in Germany and working conditions in the US. In Germany, a legal minimum of 20 vacation days per year is required for a regular 5-day work week, but a lot of employers offer 30 days. In the US, there's actually no legal requirement for any paid vacation days per year. From what I've seen, a lot of companies tend to offer 10 to 15 paid vacation days per year, sometimes more if you stay at the company longer than a few years. Germany is also known for very strong employee protection overall, and you can't just get fired for no reason, while the US is actually known for what's called at-will employment. And here's what at-will employment means exactly. It's the default legal doctrine in 49 US states except Montana, allowing employers to terminate employees at any time for any legal reason, or no reason without notice. Similarly, employees can quit at any time. It does not allow termination for illegal reasons such as discrimination, retaliation, or violations of public policy. And finally, when we compare how much Germans work overall in comparison to Americans, employees in Germany work an average of around 1,400 hours every year, while American employees work around 1,780 hours every year, which is around 400 hours more on average than German employees. The lack of safety nets and the lack of overall job security in the US is also very aligned with the fact that the US is classified as a highly individualistic culture. Germany, on the other hand, is a less individualistic culture and slightly more collectivistic compared to the US. Essentially, that difference means that in the US, the focus is more on personal individual achievement, and German culture, which is a little bit more focused on conformity and collective success, is also more likely to have more federal resources and have more federal safety nets. So bottom line is that American work culture puts a lot more pressure on the individual to perform and on the individual to drive a certain outcome, while German culture is less focused on what the individual can achieve, but ultimately more focused on creating a system that works for all individuals as a group. The first thing that I noticed in the US that is quite different is how closely people's identities are tied to their work. And that also shows up in how people talk about their work. In the US, I know pretty much exactly what a lot of my friends and acquaintances do for work, and I often know the exact title that they have at their job. In Germany, I genuinely do not know a lot of my friends' job titles or even exactly what they do, while I know a lot of Americans based on what they do. Like, oh, this is Jennifer, the tax accountant, or oh, this is Tom, the data analyst at this company. Well, I think about the people that I associate with in Germany, and for so many of them, even though they have full-time jobs, it's like, excuse me, what are you doing all day exactly? This seems to be very representative of the fact that the US is a more individualistic culture. So there is a lot more pressure on your personal achievements. Combine that with the lack of federal safety nets, it's like you're not given any other option. Really, the only option is for you to perform. And Germans, on the other hand, just seem less worried about like their career achievements. And now when I go back to Germany, I'm so surprised that work usually isn't as big of a conversation as it is here. And when I ask people about their jobs, the answers are usually pretty brief, but I'm expecting to like learn exactly what they're doing and learn about the company. And people are just like, oh yeah, it's fine, whatever. And then we switch the topic and we talk about something else. The other thing that I already mentioned is that the systems are also just simply optimized for different outcomes. The German system and German working conditions are optimized to provide security and stability, while the American system encourages or forces a lot more mobility. So a German employee on average spends around 10.5 years at the same employer. An American employee on average spends around 3.9 years with the same employer. Specifically in German companies, there seems to be a very strong hierarchy based around how long each employee has been with the company. Now, the way that system is set up can sometimes be pretty frustrating if you're the new person, because I've had some genuinely disrespectful experiences being the new person at a German company. There were a lot of people who simply completely ignored my existence, meaning they wouldn't even say hello when I would say hello to them. And interestingly, over time, the longer I had stayed at that company, those people would eventually start coming around and say hello back. Now, comparing that to the US, I have not ever experienced that. Almost immediately, I was made to feel like a member of the team, and I also wasn't treated any differently. So specifically when it comes to starting a new job, I've felt significantly better and more welcomed in American companies compared to German companies. Honestly, I'm sure that one of the reasons is that in the US, there is a lot more turnover. People are fired more quickly, new people are hired more quickly. So therefore, you might work with a team where everyone is kind of a more recent hire. And combined with the fact that there is just more pressure on the individual to perform in an American work environment, in my experience, that also meant that I was given more responsibility and more serious tasks right off the bat. The Americans don't have time to care. They're like, just get to work, you know? So I would say the goal of work in Germany is to live a balanced and perhaps even predictable life. But the goal in the US is more to live a life where you can maximize your individual achievement. And I think these different goals become the most obvious when we look at how entrepreneurship is viewed in each culture. And this touches on some of the most common frustrations that I've also heard from other people when it comes to German work culture, which is the system is so heavily optimized for security and stability, and that has so many benefits that come with it. But on the flip side, that also means breaking out of that system is significantly harder. That is why when it comes to starting your own business, Germany is often referred to as a high barrier, high reward country, which means that it's harder to start a new business in Germany. But once you operate a business, you're more likely to be successful. So if you want to open a new business in Germany, it usually takes longer. There is more paperwork associated to it, and the barrier to entry is also higher compared to the US. From my personal experience working in Germany, I would also say that people look at entrepreneurship a lot more critically, and it's given this weird connotation where it's almost like,
oh, this person thinks they're better than everyone else. They're starting their own business.
Side eye.
That's a very common sentiment that comes up in conversation. In the US, when I talk to people my age, first of all, a lot more people my age have their own business. And a lot of the conversations around starting your own business are a lot more encouraging, and people are usually in favor of doing that in order to kind of like fulfill your dreams. Now, when it comes to working in Germany versus working in the US, my personal opinion is that if a state collects taxes from its citizens in whatever way, shape, or form, the state in turn should also provide a certain amount of safety and safety nets to its citizens. And when it comes to that, I simply don't feel like the US government is doing enough of that. And in that regard, the German system provides a lot more safety, which makes it ultimately less stressful and more safe to work in Germany. But on the flip side, working in Germany can also feel like you're being pushed to fit into the system, which on a personal level can be less fulfilling. And for a lot of people, the easier option is to be employed and to stay at the same company for a very long time, because that is just what you do, and it'll get you more recognition than trying to do your own thing. Working in America is a lot more stressful in all areas of your life. And I've really felt this for the first time, where I'm realizing as long as I'm working in this system, every single aspect of my life depends on me. And I didn't grow up in the system, so it sometimes hits me like a ton of bricks, and I do feel this sense of pressure to perform in the work environment because so many more things are attached to my professional success. So many more aspects of my life are directly impacted by how good of a job I'm doing at my job. And while I'm obviously currently choosing to live with my husband in the United States and work here and live my life in this country and in this system, I'm very aware of the risks, and I do sometimes have moments where I feel like it can be just too much pressure pressure on an individual. And this system really demands a lot from you, and a lot more than the German system ever would. Now, I will say that when it comes to how I show up to work and how I view my work in an American work environment, I have noticed that I've become significantly more confident and that I feel more empowered in my own capabilities, because there is so much pressure on the downside and also a lot of encouragement to really fulfill your own potential. And that is a sentiment that I personally felt like was often missing from German work environments, where sometimes I've been actively discouraged for trying to make changes or be innovative or have different ideas, because people were afraid that the status quo was going to get disrupted and people didn't like the idea of change. So to be fully honest, in a perfect world, I would take the German system and the security and the stability and the peace of mind that comes with working in that system and combine it with certain elements of the American mentality, so people could feel supported either way. So you have that sense of security to fall back on, knowing that you are going to be okay, even if things happen that are beyond your control and they're going to impact your work, because that way people can feel secure and still be innovative and follow their passion, knowing that they're going to be okay. But you know, that would just be my dream scenario. All right, I hope I was able to explain some of the differences between German and American work culture. I always try in those videos to find a very balanced approach and not get too emotional when I talk about these different topics, because I want to ultimately create a greater understanding for both cultures. Let me know how you feel about working in Germany versus working in the US, and what your personal experience has been in these two different work cultures. And also, if there are any topics about Germany or the US or both that you'd like me to talk about, you can always let me know in the comments. Just use the word topic, because that way I can specifically search the comments for topic suggestions. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel.
Smash.
And I'm going to see you again very, very soon in my next video. Bye.